We have literal gods entering Cray, as well as some ninjas emerging from the shadows.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and this week we've got some very exciting news. Not only did we see the complete skill reveal of the new Valkyrian star deity, as well as the accompanied Astral Plane. So we now know the complete idea behind these two cards in this new mechanic. But besides that, we also saw the new card reveals for Murakumo with their VR, and those cards and that clan is shaping up to be a very interesting new thing that might be very crazy with things we already had and with potential future cards. But without further ado, let's jump right into these new reveals. And first, let's take a look at the new Valkyrian as well as the Astral Plane, how these cards interact. As we already saw some interactions and how the mechanic behind it works, but the actual skills from the Astral Plane as well as the new Valkyrian grade 5 unit weren't really revealed. But we now know what they actually are doing. So first, let's take a look at Valkyrian himself. He got 3 skills, and his first one is continuous. You cannot ride this unit. This was something you already knew, as it was behind the mechanic of this new concept. But its second ability is auto. When it's on the circle other than an Astral Plane, retire this unit. So once again, we already knew this in some kind of regard behind the ruling behind this new mechanic. Only last week it was referred to when it's called. So it was bypassable with the lock mechanic behind Link Joker, as you can search it out, lock it, and then unlock it, as that's technically not calling. But how it's now worded, even that doesn't work, as when it's on a circle that isn't the Astral Plane, it is then removed and put into the drop zone. But with that information, we also now know that the Astral Plane is still regarded as a circle, so anything that targets a circle can still target the Astral Plane, anything that interacts with a circle can still interact with that Astral Plane. But now onwards to the actual skill for Valkyrian, so what that card is going to do is auto regular circle. When placed, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, place 1 card among them into your drop zone, then shuffle your deck, and until the end of turn, this unit can perform drive checks equal to the grade of the card placed into the drop zone by this ability. So that means it can have 0 drive checks, 1, 2, 3, or even 5 drive checks. The reason why I'm not calling 4th is because Genesis currently doesn't have a grade 4. That can change, but currently they don't have that. So that in itself might look very promising and very powerful, as it can potentially have a 5 drive checking 70k unit that attacks the Vanguard, as well as your natural Vanguard that has a twin drive, and with the extra 5 force markers underneath it, that's a 63k attack as well. So that can be very deadly. However, there is a catch, and you're gonna see that in a moment when we're gonna talk about the Astral Plane. So let's do that right now. For the Astral Plane, we have the following things that we know about it, is that you may call a star deity unit to it, ignoring its grade. So basically when you are grade 3, you can call the grade 5 Valkyrian, even though you usually shouldn't be able to call grade 5s. Also, if there's a non-star deity card on the Astral Plane, send it to the drop zone. This is something we already knew, it was behind the mechanic of it. So when you call a non-star deity, a normal unit basically, to that thing, it is retired immediately. Now thirdly, a unit in the Astral Plane may attack from the back row, so we now know that Valkyrian can attack. It performs drive checks, and cards drive checked by it get sent into the soul instead. So this is the catch that I was referring to, as yes, you have potentially 3, 5 drive checks. Those aren't pluses on your hand, so you're not plussing like 7 cards. They are going to your soul. Genesis can use that in some regard, but that is way less significant than if they were sent to your hand instead, as those are some very good value cards. As at the same time, if you're drive checking a lot of triggers, you're also wasting those shield value, as all those triggers will go into your soul immediately. So there is a catch to that. But there's also another catch, and that's the 4th thing about this Astral Plane. That's at the end of your turn, return the unit on your Astral Plane back to the bottom of your deck. So even though you already are very inconsistent, as you need to get the grade 5 somehow to your hand, then after that one-time thing, it will be sent back to the bottom of the deck, and next turn you need to have another copy to, so either you need a top deck, or you need to have another one in your hand, or other kind of way. So this will limit it in a sense that if you do not kill them on the turn, it might not be happening again that game. So in general, I'm a little bit disappointed in how it works, and I think a lot of people are, as we expected that when the Astral Plane comes into play, it had some kind of consistency thing that it can search out Valkyrie either directly or maybe checking the top X cards from your deck and then fetch it out of those top cards. But sadly, it doesn't do any of those things. So currently with the cards that we have, it's very inconsistent, and for the trouble that you go to get it, it's not that amazing. However, I am refraining myself to going either way that it's saying it's good or bad, because we have so many cards that need to be revealed. We still have the trial deck, and probably 1 or 2 cards are going to be very vital to this strategy. But we also got an entire new set for Genesis that still can reveal some amazing cards that might up the consistency of this by searching out cards of this, or help with the amount of force markers you are creating. The new VR can potentially do that, help with putting out more force markers onto the field. And I also hope that we're gonna get some rearguard pressures, as everything about the force markers is going to be put underneath your Vanguard, meaning your rearguards aren't going to do anything for the rest of the game. So maybe the VR will help you gaining more force markers, but at the same time powering up your rearguards as well. So it is very curious what route they're going to take, and depending on the support, this is going to be a bust or a hit. As currently it's looking like a very card game protagonist shenanigan level, just like Demiurge, that it looks very solid on paper, but in execution, it's not that great. So depending on the support for Genesis, this can either be a hit or a miss. But enough about that, let's take a look at the new Murakumo cards, as that is basically the main thing about this reveal stream, as those are some very interesting cards. So first off, we have a new grid 1 that is Stealth Rogue of Summoning Jiraiya, and its skills are Auto Vanguard Circle, when placed, draw a card and put a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. So when you write it, it's another cycle effect. You can basically increase the consistency of your deck or your hand. And overall, it's just a solid skill attached to something that will synergize with the rest of the deck. So overall, it's a solid thing. But then we have its second ability, and that's Act on Rearguard Circle. Once per turn, cost counter plus 1, and one of your Vanguards get power plus 10k until the end of turn. So for counter plus 1, increase your Vanguard's attack by 10. For the Axel clan, that can be very significant, as it allows every grade 3 to hit over a 4th grade 3, but also increase the magic number against other Axel and Protect clans. But in general, this skill doesn't really look that promising, as it is a counterblast for a 10k increase in a clan that cannot countercharge. However, as we're gonna see with the next card, this effect and the counterblast might be worth it for the amount of pressure you can put out onto the field. And the card that we're referring to is this grade 2, Stealth Beast Spell Hound. And its skill is Auto Vanguard the Rearguard Circle. When placed, cost Soul Blast 2. Search your deck for up to 1 Stealth Beast Spellhound, call to the Rearguard Circle, and shuffle your deck. Increase or decrease that unit's and this unit's power to match your Vanguard's power until the end of turn. Match the power at that time. So basically what you're doing is you increase your Vanguard's power with 10k thanks to Jiraiya, and potentially give it a little bit more power with other cards. Then you call out a Stealth Beast Spellhound, use its skill, then call out another one, and both those units will gain the power. And if you're sitting at your grade 3, that's probably a 22k, maybe 27. So you have a 27k Vanguard and 2 grade 2s that also will swing for 27k. That can come after a Zanbaku stun lock, where they already used a lot of resources to survive your turn, where they couldn't attack with their Vanguards on a twin drive, and they couldn't even ride. And then you will swing in with a lot of high powered attacks, and that can be a little bit too much for your opponent. Yes, the Soul Blast 2 might be a problem with Shiryuki, but I don't think you're gonna use Shiryuki with this new strategy. It can, but if you're using this card, you probably won't do that. But now on to the main card, the grade 3, that basically will make the deck, and that is Samurai Chieftain Hyuga. And it got 2 very interesting skills, and you're gonna see, because its first one is Act on Vanguard Circle, once per turn, cost counter plus 1, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same grade as one of your opponent's units, call to the Rearguard Circle, shuffle your deck, and until the end of turn, change the card name of all your and your opponent's units to this unit's card name. So you call out a card and all cards onto the field become that card's name. So they share all the same name. They're not becoming that card, but they have all the same name. But then we got a second ability, and that's Act on Vanguard Circle, cost Soul Blast 1 grade 3, and return all of your opponent's rearguards with the same card name as your opponent's other units to the deck and shuffle it. When you've changed every unit to the same name, you can then basically board wipe your opponent as everything will be put to the bottom of the deck. This is a very strong card that can be used in a lot of different strategies. On its own, it's a control card that works against clans that are focusing around boards, where they need a lot of rearguards to support their onslaught or their combos and that kind of strategies. Zanbaku is the opposite, where it's a good control card against a Vanguard-centric deck, where clans are relying on their Vanguards with all things that either rewriting or restanding or that kind of shenanigans. So you can either combine those two to have a full control deck that can stop your opponent in any kind of situation, but you can also combine the two in a more deadly way, as you can use Zanbaku's complete stun lock to eliminate your opponent's resources, as they are forced to call out a lot of cards to the field to have some pressure against you if they cannot rewrite or resend through any kind of special way. And when they do that, you can write into this thing and then move everything from the field to the bottom of the deck. So they just wasted all the resources even more, as they are putting all cards now to the bottom of the deck. That can be a very deadly combination. But when we step away from Zanbaku as well as Shiryuki and just look at this card on its own, there is something that comes to mind, as it can superior call a card from deck and then change every card to the same name. That's basically a good Mandala Lord support, as you have a lot of cards with Mandala Lord in the name. You have the grade 2 and the grade 3 that synergize with a lot of other grade 1s like Itsumetsu Blazer and another grade 1 that's called Turbulent Edge, as they all work by powering up all the Mandala Lords onto the field with a lot of power. And because everything is called Mandala Lord at that point, then you will gain a lot of power onto the field, as well as potential draws and all those kinds of stuff. But even beside Mandala Lord, you have some other cards, as you have White Mane that didn't really look that good in its previous set, a 7k grade 2. But when everything is called a White Mane, then that one White Mane with the actual skill can suddenly spike up with 20, 25, maybe 30k on its own without Axel marker power. And if you have another White Mane, those are two very powerful attackers. But even besides that, we have another option that is very potent, that is Covert Demonic Dragon Densetsu Anarch, as that card synergize perfectly with this card, as it has a skill that when it's superior called from the deck, it gains plus 5k, so you call it a 70k beater. But then you change everything into that unit's name, even including your Vanguard, and then its other skill will go off, where every unit with the same name as your Vanguard gains 5k power. So it in itself gains plus 10k through its both skills, and your entire board will gain another 5k power. That's pretty big, as that's basically Sonata's Melody, only it works with every card that doesn't have Melody. Those are some pretty damn significant combinations of cards that you can use that we already have. And we still have a lot of other cards that need to be revealed in this set. So this card can be insane, and it has all kinds of different possibilities where you can build a deck. You can build a complete control deck with Zanbaku, maybe a kill deck with Zanbaku, as well as some kill combination with random commons and rares from previous sets, maybe a new Mandala Lord focus centric deck. And that's what I really dig about this card, as it opens up so many plays, and probably even plays that we haven't come up with in this video, maybe other videos, as there are definitely a lot of things you can try out with this card. But overall, these reveals were pretty damn amazing. The Murakumo cards, in my opinion, are looking pretty solid, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And as for the Genesis cards, a little bit disappointed in how it functioned, as I hope the consistency was a little bit helped within those two mechanics. But we have to wait and see for the complete review until we've got all the cards for Genesis. As I stated before, we still have got the trial deck with probably 1 or 2 key cards, and then we got the entire set the month after with a VR that probably is gonna fix the entire thing. So we have to wait and see for everything, but I'm very curious what you guys think of what was revealed today. So let me know in the comments down below all your thoughts and opinions for the new Valkyrie, as well as the Astral Plane, as well as all these new cards for Murakumo with their VR. That is looking pretty damn amazing. But as always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters over at Patreon for making this video and everything possible on this channel. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel and everything that's happening on the channel, then head over to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one.